Welcome to Mixed Stories,
a podcast by Worldwide Musicians United. Stories,
sounds,
and connections from artists who shape change. Diverse voices.
One shared pulse.
Every story vibrates.
Some will echo in you.
This is Mixed Stories.
Episode 2.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel from Worldwide Musicians United, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with my dear friend and collaborator, Moira Bianco. Moira is currently serving as an associate professor at Berklee College of Music. She also serves on the advisory board of the Bioregulatory Medicine Institute, and she is a member of the International Association for Music and Medicine. And Moira is a trauma-informed practitioner and also the founding member of WWMU's sound therapy program here in the US, where we've been collaborating on some very powerful and innovative projects throughout the Boston area. And you can learn more about those by visiting WWMU.org. So Moira, to start out our conversation today, I wanted to talk a little bit about your sound therapy certification.
Mm-hmm.
You're not only a sound therapist yourself, but you also train and certify others to incorporate sound therapy into their own practices. So when you think about this sound therapy certification, who is it for?
So this certification program is for any professional really that works in healthcare, mental health, but also body workers, people who work with somatic healing practices. And in general, people who are interested in healing arts from the allopathic medicine tradition, but they can also be working in the wellness space. And the certification program is a way for us to explore sound therapy from a scientific-based perspective. And we're gonna work with practices that are trauma-informed. And the reason is that when you work with trauma-informed practices, you aim to regulate the nervous system. So even if you don't work with trauma, because the practices you're gonna learn aim to regulate the nervous system, they can be beneficial to anyone. And educators too are very welcome to join the program, especially if they work in the medical field and they wish to integrate sound and somatic healing into their practice. The somatic aspect is part of it. We cannot have sound without considering the body, right? And especially when we talk about the therapeutic use of sound, the body is the receiver, is the beneficiary. And therefore, approaching sound from a somatic healing perspective is foundational to the type of training that I offer.
Fantastic. Sounds like it's for a wide variety of people.
Yes, people who are interested in science, right? There is a lot of physics to discuss the core principles of sound. We discuss psychoacoustics, and then we talk about the anatomy of the body, obviously the nervous system, but also when we talk about energetic anatomy, how the different traditions offer valuable resources for us to approach health from a holistic perspective.
Got it. Okay, yeah, and that actually leads into my next question, which is about this idea of science and tradition kind of blending in your work, which bridges modern research with ancient healing practices, grounding sound therapy in both empirical studies and traditional wisdom. So can you talk some more about that, how you've situated your work between the ancient and the modern, and why that feels important?
Yeah, the ancient, again, it belongs to the tradition. Sound has been used as a therapeutic tool since forever. Fields like ethnomusicology or even archaeoacoustics, they offer an incredible perspective. The modern part of it, it's all based on science, meaning if we talk about the nervous system, we need to understand how the activation of the parasympathetic response works. We need to understand how the vagus nerve is responsible for the activation of the parasympathetic response. Why the ear is a parasympathetic organ. So all of these things are parts of science. People will live with a foundation of what the practice is and how sound can benefit the body and regulate the nervous system.
That makes sense. And it sounds like they'll leave with the confidence that what they're learning is rooted in science and empirical data. And one thing that occurred to me as you were talking before, you've talked about how you call yourself a sound therapist and not a sound healer. And if I'm remembering correctly, that's because you hope to assist the body in kind of remembering its own healing abilities, right?
Exactly. So in that case, the healer and the healee are the same person, which is the client. We're just facilitating the process, right? And we're trying to get the nervous system to reach balance. That it's called homeostasis. This is also important, right, for us to address. We are just trying to facilitate a process. And we also need to remember that everybody is different. And if we work with clients, we're going to face different sensitivities to sound. So even understanding what we're going to do when, what is the capacity of receiving sound that day, different populations, different settings. Even the settings will work, right? And the places, the space, the venue that we use are gonna determine the type of practices we can offer. So also learning accessibility, right? Like being adaptable to any circumstances and different type of populations. It is part of a trauma-informed practice. And that is what I include in the training, because this way, if an educator is trying to bring these practices in a college setting, that is possible. But if a mental health practitioner is trying to include these practices as part of their offering, then they can do something different. But maybe a nurse is going to use these practices, when they are assisting their patients. And so different ways sound can be part of the conversation because the body is part of the conversation. So sound is an additional tool.
So you've talked a little bit so far about what sound therapy is. So I'm curious if we could touch on what sound therapy is not. I think there are a lot of ideas about what sound therapy is and is not. So can we talk about that for a bit?
What do you think sound therapy is not?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. A very wise friend of mine, you, once told me that if you walk into a room and there's a bunch of half-naked people and Himalayan singing bowls, to run for the hills. So I always remembered that. But I think it comes back to this idea of the ancient traditions and tapping into those.
Which is amazing. But also we need to understand cultural appropriation, right? So this is a fine line. And again, we want to be mindful. Like if we all love white organic cotton, that is a fashion choice, right? It has to do with sustainability, and it has to do with how you like to dress. But that is not what the practice can be about, because otherwise we become a meme of what the practice can be. We need to portray the practice in a way that is consistent with what it is. Also, as practitioners, we want to be mindful of the language that we use, especially when we work with clients that they are seeking healing. So you don't want to position yourself in a way that gives false hopes, or even worse, you positioning yourself as kind of a saint or a guru that has, the answer to a condition that needs to be supervised by medical professionals. That is why I want to work with medical professionals. That is why I want to do research, because health is a teamwork. As sound practitioners, as somatic healing practitioners, we can offer practices that help the process of self-regulation. That is where my research starts and ends.
It sounds like collaboration is a big part of what you're doing.
Absolutely. And also, my goal is to introduce these practices in clinical settings. So we don't want to sound silly. Unfortunately, I need to use this term because sometimes the media portrayed the practice in a way that I feel insulted by it. We cannot call that sound therapy. That is a great Instagram post, but has nothing to do with the practice.
Right. Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of misinformation out there. And
that is why education is important. Education is the most powerful tool to empower people. So educating what is the nervous system, how can we use sound or somatic practices to help regulate the nervous system. That is important. That is something that everybody can relate to. But when we position ourselves like having the answer to somebody else's problems, then we are creating a hierarchy that is very dangerous, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. And it's almost like you take away their agency to, again, heal themselves, be part of the process, an essential part of the process, right?
Absolutely.
So Moira, where can people sign up for the certification program?
So if they are interested in learning more and signing up, they can visit my website. So it's moiralubianco.com. There is a page, offerings, and there they're going to have all the information about the upcoming trainings and also the upcoming courses that are going to be available online this summer.
Amazing. Those I will sign up for sure. Okay, so speaking of the record company and your new record, Meditative, I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. And my first question is, what inspired you to want to make this record? I know you've made a lot of records in the past, so what inspired you to make this particular record, and how is it different than the other records you've made before?
So this is a totally different record because it's an offering to the clients I've been working with for the past few years. And anytime a program will end, they will ask me, how can I still have you while you're not here? And the same came from the practitioners and the doctors I've been working with in the past few years, and how they could use sound in their wellness center, in their clinic. So it's for patients to take it, home with them and listen to it anytime they want to ground themselves to the present moment. But also for practitioners to play in their clinics. And for everybody, really, for anyone who is looking for a way to relax, for anybody who needs a moment of relaxation.
Well, as usual, your rhythm and your timing is impeccable, because I feel like now is a really great moment for people to be grounding themselves, right? And so I'm really glad that this record is coming out when it is, and I can't wait to listen to it myself.
Thank you.
And so you've described it as a full mind-body experience that can serve as a companion for meditation, healing practices, and stress reduction. So can you tell us a little bit more about how this tool can complement those other practices? I know you said people can bring it home and listen to it, but is there anything else there?
Of course. So the invitation is to, first of all, notice how the body responds to sounds and how the mind engages with them. And together with the record, people also receive a series of mindful listening practices. In general, the invitation to cultivate breath awareness and notice how the sounds impact the nervous system again. That is the main practice that I would suggest. And lying down, it can be a great way to listen to the record, maybe keeping the eyes closed, anything that invites the mind and the body to rest and to breathe. That is how I see the record be integrated into our daily routine. And the music is a combination between sound therapy instruments and piano tracks. So people who are interested more in the piano, they can listen to that. And people who are interested in the sound therapy instruments more, they can focus on that type of sound as well.
So I'm curious, when you composed these different tracks, did you have ideas about how they might be useful? Like maybe one could be helpful for sleep or relaxation, or maybe in the earlier part of the day?
Yeah, so the practices are all focused on deep relaxation. Because this is like a recreation of a sound therapy practice, I also included enough consonance and dissonance so that the listener is benefiting from the album as if they are with me in the room in a sound therapy session.
So a question for other lay people like me, because I know we have, as musicians, our ideas about consonance and dissonance and pleasant and unpleasant that are, misguided anyway, in large part. But when it comes to sound therapy, can you speak to how dissonance, the body might respond in a certain way that might not feel pleasant, but it can still be helpful?
Absolutely. Dissonance is as important as consonance. First of all, from a trauma-informed perspective, this is called titration, right? And pendulation as well. These are incredible techniques where you actually work with the two end of the pendulum. And you want to go from comfort to discomfort, because that is a way for the nervous system to build resilience. Meaning, we are training the nervous system that if we are experiencing discomfort, we're still safe because we have the tools to go back to safety. So alternating consonance and dissonance using titration as a tool, meaning progressively integrating dissonance into a consonant sound sequence, is it should be beneficial to all.
Got it. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about that room and the recording process. And so I saw that there were 40 acoustic instruments featured on this album, which is just incredible. And they were all performed by you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a one-man made, album. And without the help of Rodney, Alejandro, this will not be possible. He was with me 2 days in the room. We studied a way to record the instruments so that we could capture the essence of each of them. These are very quiet instruments. So we needed to have a lot of mics and different type of mics. And the way I was walking in the room is so that the sound is moving, as if the listener is with me in the room. And composing and performing, it's something I'm very used to. And therefore, this was just an extension of that. The sound therapy instruments are part of the conversation together with the piano. So I also included the piano, but it's going to sound very different than the usual piano playing I will offer in another record.
I want to circle back to the piano in a minute, but I'm wondering, what was the biggest number of mics you had set up at any one time as you were walking around?
I think we had 9.
Wow.
Per instrument.
That's a lot. Wow.
So Imagine the cleaning process. And by cleaning, I mean the air, my footsteps,
Sure.
my breath, all those little tiny wonderful sounds that are part of the human experience, right, of recording an album in the studio. For the cleaning process, Chris Avila helped us to really meticulously clean those tracks. It was indeed a labor of love. It was a lot of work, but again, it is worth it to spend so much time and making sure I'm delivering a product that is good.
I love it. And I love the studio. It's kind of where I feel most at home making music. So I'm curious, were there any happy accidents that happened, like you were talking about the air unit or your breath, or were there any things that happened organically that you decided to keep or build something around as they occurred?
Yeah, so definitely the performance of those instruments. Because again, I composed the music as if it was a composition. But the beauty of the instruments is that their sound shifts incredibly. And so sometimes I found myself listening to the demo, right? I was recording at home before completing the compositional process, and the same sequence sounded completely different when we then recorded that day in the studio. Mm-hmm. And that is the magic of overtones. The same instrument sounds different each time you strike it, right? So if you use a different type of mallet, if you are having two different combinations of bowls, or if you just, change the distance between them, the sound changes, and that is very special.
Beautiful. It sounds like a meditation unto itself, making the music.
It is.
Right?
It was. There was a lot of sound happening, but also there was a lot of interaction, interplaying among the different instruments, and how we can give the experience of the room while people are listening through the headphones. We had tuning forks, gongs, and Himalayan singing bowls, different sets. Okay. And in addition, there was also the piano.
Okay. And then I guess of those three, was there one that challenged you the most in terms of capturing the sound the way you wanted it?
Yeah, so the weighted tuning forks are very, very quiet. And so capturing the sound of those instruments was particularly challenging. And then the gong, instead, it's kind of loud. And so making sure that the sound will not be too overwhelming, that was also something interesting to calibrate, to monitor. And as I mentioned, the balls were shifting in terms of sound a lot. So that was also interesting to capture each time, making sure I will keep the sound sequence as designed while also honoring how it was sounding that day. So it was, for me, it was more than a performance, it was a learning experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it gave you a new appreciation for the intricacies of each one, right? Or a new understanding.
The technicality of the recording process. Kudo, chapeau to all the sound engineers, all the technicians, because your work is so important. And we often talk about the artist and the music. We talk less about the technicians, the engineers. And I think you guys have as much importance in the record as we do. And I say you because I know you're a recording engineer.
I appreciate you saying that. We can fight about that later, but I appreciate it. And let's talk a little bit about your old friend, the piano. And I know you'll never say it, but I'll go ahead and embarrass you. You're a master of the piano. And you've studied a lot, like you said. And you're a Steinway artist and a Steinway educational partner. And so your relationship with the piano is deep, right? And you've made a lot of records that are a certain way, like we've talked about. So I'm curious how the piano showed up in this context, how it was different for you, and how your relationship with the instrument evolved as a result.
That is such a beautiful question. As you know, I grew up with the piano. For me, the piano was my life for most of my life. So in a way, I learned to evolve with the piano. The piano is an extension of me. And it only makes sense that in this record sounds so different because I'm not the same person. And it's that simple. So the piano in this record is an offering. So it's for people to enjoy a piano playing that is much more resolved. That's how I like to call it. And you know, like when harmonically you find a way to say the same thing, but with less intricacies, as an artist, for me, it was a great moment because now I found a new way to play my instrument, and that it's healing for me because it's a new way to play my own instrument, is a new way to offer my relationship with the piano. As a pianist and as a composer, I always feel the urge or even the pressure that I always have to deliver something that it's highly skilled and that is, you know, difficult, because that is what I have been for most of my life, right? Me on the piano, that is what it is. But this time I just said, this is not for you. This is not about you. This is about the people who are gonna listen to the piano.
I love that so much. I love that idea of an offering. And I'm curious because I know how technically capable you are. What did you tap into? We're going to get a little esoteric here. What did you tap into to be able to access this new way of delivering this offering? Was it like a meditative state yourself, or what helped you access that?
First of all, for me, it's more difficult to play slow and a composed type of sound because it's more intimate. And because when you play less sounds, those sounds, they need to be intentional 100%. Mm-hmm. And so that was the challenge. The technical challenge was still present. But as you said, composing those pieces and then play them, it was an offering again. I really just surrendered, you know, and I just said, this is sincere. I'm just playing something from my heart, and I hope it's gonna sound good. For some reason, I'm getting an image of the heart versus the brain, right? Like a lot more heart-centered maybe than cerebral. Is that accurate? Absolutely. And also, I always kept in mind the breath. Is the music breathing? Is the music giving an opportunity to breathe? Because at the end of the day, breath awareness is what can really help us regulate the nervous system. And the album aims to help that process.
Leaving space for people to breathe and have their own experience.
Correct. And in a way, even complete the musical sentence.
Ooh, love that.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, space, it's an opportunity for us to be part of the conversation. But from a trauma-informed perspective, silence is the place for integration. And so it's as important as sound.
Fantastic. So you mentioned some of these audios of self-regulation techniques that come with a purchase of the album. Can you tell us about a couple of those or what those sound like?
This past spring, I had the great opportunity to record an entire series of self-regulation techniques. Those involve 33 educational videos. And the practices go from somatic healing practices to yoga nidra, to mindful listening, and so on. So from this series, I selected a portion of those practices that can be paired with the tracks so that people can practice mindful listening in a way that involves sound through the recording and listening to the recording, but also without sound. So just with the practice on its own.
So is this you guiding people through with your voice and helping with breathing, for example, or? Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. I look forward to hearing those as well and using them myself. Okay, well, is there anything else you want to share about this process or the record itself?
Well, Meditative is gonna be released World Meditation Day. So it's an invitation for us to take a moment to go inward. And I know you are a meditation teacher yourself. Meditation is an incredible tool that we have for self-regulate. That's how I like to put it. And so the sound, in a way, it's a tool that we can use if we are not ready for silence yet. That is the ultimate learning for me. You know, I studied Vipassana, so for me, meditation is in silence. But I understand that silence is a destination. And in order for us to get there, we want to transition from the hectic noise to balancing sound, to spare sounds, to then finally being at ease while enjoying silence. And so the album, in a way, is a tool for us to explore meditation, what that means. And sometimes people think of meditation like something exotic, right? Because as sound therapy, sometimes meditation is portrayed like something exotic. And again, we want to discern marketing from the practice. People can meditate while they are in the car, while they are at home, in the office during their lunch break. Meditation can simply be breath awareness. Focus yourself in the present moment and just notice what is present. And so Meditative album, you know, just like a warm scarf, it's something that is embracing people.
Well, what a beautiful offering. I'm so excited for this record. Even more excited having spoken to you more about it today than I was before. And so World Meditation Day, just so everyone knows, is May 21st, correct?
Correct.
And the album is available now for pre-order on Bandcamp. And that's under your name, Moira Lo Bianco, on Bandcamp?
And Integro Sonoro as well.
Okay, perfect. So folks can find it there. And thank you, Moira, for being you, for bringing peace to this world that needs it so much in all the ways that you do, and through your music and helping people connect with themselves and meditation and all the beautiful things you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.